Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the DJ Sessions presents the virtual sessions. I'm your host, Darren, and right now I'm all here by myself. But you know what? There she is.
I'm
We're with
here.
we're with Crystal Waters today. Crystal, where are you coming in from?
I'm in Washington, D.C.
In DC. Well, I'm over here in the virtual studios in Seattle, Washington, doing our
Oh,
show called the Virtual Sessions, and welcome to the Virtual Sessions today.
thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Well, I gotta say, when I got the approval and the email back about you coming on the show, I kind of fluttered a little bit,
Oh,
because I just remember going way back in the day and getting into dance music and electronic music and working at a record store and just remembering how important your music was at that time to me. I was a young kid growing up, and it was just so awesome. And I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe Crystal Waters is coming on.
well,
So I'm very
I'm glad to be here. I like to, do interviews with people who are in the community, like, the DJs, the clubs. These are the people who are keeping me alive. So, it's important for me to show up.
well. Speaking about keeping you alive, let's jump right into something I saw on Instagram the other day. Were you really was that being walked on stage or walked off stage?
That was part of my show, and for that particular show, we didn't have much stage, so I was like, guys, just pick me up and walk me across the stage. So yeah, that's part of my show.
Was that something that's okay? So that's okay. So that wasn't done like right at the last minute or some exit strategy.
No, I
Okay.
have, I come from the club, so I have a club show, and I tell people don't bring your kids because I'm from the club. So I actually dance and I actually perform. I think people don't know that. I don't just stand there and sing. I actually have choreography and things like that. So yeah.
It reminded me of this one time. We rented a limousine and we were going to one of my favorite clubs in Seattle called Neighbors, very prominent LGBTQ plus club. And we had this limousine and we're rolling in on the limousine. And I decided to jump out on top of the roof of the limousine and we roll through the alleyway, rolling up to the back door of the club. And I'm laid out like Cleopatra, laying on the top of the roof of this limousine as we pull up to the back door of the club. And then I jump off and everyone jumps out of the limo and we walk right into the club. And it just reminded me of that. Like you're just being carried on stage. It was
Give
awesome
them
to see
something to
that.
talk about. Yeah.
And so that's just phenomenal. And the crowd looked amazing. Where was that show at?
That was in Brooklyn at the Mirage. They have some really fantastic
Oh,
shows. The sound system, the
oh,
lighting is. It was Green Velvet put on a party that afternoon.
oh,
Yeah,
oh
it
my
was
gosh. That
great.
is okay. I cannot stop talking about the Brooklyn Mirage because I went there last year. I went to New York for my first time
Mm.
last year as an adult. And, and we were seeing one of our resident DJs, Lucy Tudor, open up for Lane 8 and Le Youth at
Mm.
the Brooklyn Mirage. I did not know what to expect walking into that club. And
Mhm.
I cannot stop talking about it enough. It has not ruined my nightclub experience, but now I notice small clubs, big clubs, and then there's Brooklyn Mirage type club.
Yeah, open air, and they
Yeah,
just remodeled it too, so it is really nice.
it was amazing. And so, but I always have the story of what I tell people is when I got up to one of the top of I call it a castle. You kind of like go to
I
these
like to
different
see
levels and
that.
you're like looking around, you're in the middle of Brooklyn. I
Uh-huh.
had never seen the Manhattan skyline before.
Oh,
And I got
wow.
up to one of the topmost points there, and I had my drink in my hand, and I'm looking out at the end. I'm thinking, is this maybe the south end of Manhattan Island? I'm seeing, the lights from the towers, at
Mhm.
the end of the island. I'm looking at the end of the island. I'm thinking, oh, I must be looking at the island like I'm looking at the island like this. I had no idea
Yeah, it was like that.
skyline went like that, and I went like this. My drink in my hand went. Whoa! I had never seen the Manhattan skyline
It's
before.
beautiful. You're actually seeing almost the whole island from south
Yeah,
to north. Yeah.
it blew me away, and that has been one of my top favorite places. I will go. I will love to go see shows there
Mhm.
frequently when I get a chance to make it to New York. But yeah, that club, like I said, I can't stop talking. I almost fanboy about that club more than any nightclub in the world, and now I still go nightclubbing in my own city, but I'm kind of like, y'all
Mhm.
gotta go to the Brooklyn Mirage. You got to see the Brooklyn.
Gotta go. Next time you go to the House of Yes.
Yeah, House of
It's
Yes.
yeah, it's smaller, but you'll be entertained, to say that.
Yeah,
They have stuff
awesome.
coming from the sky and everything, so yeah, you'll be good.
Oh, is was that one of a video from your current tour? Because I know you're on tour right now.
Yeah, Brooklyn was just June. We just did that in June, and then I've been overseas with the girls. You saw Robin and Cece, and some of that was in the UK, some of it was in Denmark. So yeah, and in Florida. So yeah, me hanging out with my dancers. So
and
yeah,
and you'll be
it's been a fun summer.
and have you been getting a chance to perform your latest single, "Love One Another," that you
Yeah.
did collab with Soul Central?
Yeah, no, I haven't put that in the show yet, but I do Party People, the one me and Spin did last year. I haven't gotten the words down to that one yet. Love one another, but I probably by the fall I'll put it in the show.
And if you could describe your music in 3 words, what would you call it?
In 3 words, what would I call my music? I like to think it's inspirational. Um, I like to uplift, uh, and encourage everyone to join in. It's for everyone, off the top
So
of my head.
that works. And have you ever visited a faraway country where you were actually surprised people knew all of your music?
Yeah, I think one of the ones, Tbilisi, Georgia. Georgia is a country. If you don't know
Okay.
where it is, I have to pull out the map sometimes when I get on these flights. And this was happened to be maybe 2 years ago, 2020 actually. Well, no, last year we went. And you travel 14 hours, beautiful city, and I got on stage and the roar from the crowd, you would have thought, Beyonce walked on stage. And I was like, "Me?" So, stuff like that, and they knew they're really in the house. They knew all the songs. They appreciated, house music and where it came from. We went to a couple other clubs. Alternate was there the same weekend. So yeah, stuff like that. You sit here, I sit here in DC, you never know who's listening.
Mhm. And how has your experience been seeing the rise of the US electronic music market? And is it different than that in Europe? And which scene do you find more appealing?
You say it's a rise. I say it's a transition. The house started here and then it moved. Thank God it moved to Europe because they kept it alive when it kind of died here in America. It only died on the radio. We all went back underground. And they actually took it and made it into something. They actually imitated us so well that now you can't even tell the difference. But they also took it into new directions and everything. And what I appreciate about over there is that it's mainstream, it's pop. So I like it because when we started, they told us we weren't doing real music; it would never last. It was a fad, and to see it still alive and still thriving and going strong to be a part of that history, I think it's a wonderful outcome.
It's funny you bring that up because in 1992, I was really heavily into hip hop, to rap music. That
Mhm.
was really what was coming out, and at that time, and you know, when I worked at a music store at 18 years old, there was a small little electronic section. I mean, I think that's what
Yeah.
it's labeled. It was labeled electronic, and there was CDs and tapes. We didn't have records. I say record store, but that's my old school of me going back into things. But
Mhm.
you had to go to the record stores to get actual vinyl. But electronic music, there was techno and there was house.
Mhm.
It really wasn't mainstream, and I started going to underground clubs, literally a club called the Underground in 1992. And that's what was
Mhm.
my first experience of kind of seeing the candy culture, the culture in the sense of things, of getting dressed up and having this electronic music being played all night long till 2, 4 in the morning. Started going to the raves and
Mhm.
staying out, later, and seeing that all rise up. And so my friends, they knew it when in my hometown, they knew me as kind of the hip hop driving a Cadillac around kind of guy. But my city friends, when we went to the city to go dance in Seattle, we were going out to the clubs and listening to this underground, you know, techno house, and then eventually moved into trance. Like you said, became a little bit bigger and mainstream. But for you, do you prefer more intimate clubs or do you prefer the bigger festivals?
I like both. I love the people who really love the music, and that's usually a smaller club. Um, who more educated about where house came from, and like when house started, there was no VIPs, there was no, it was, you just came to dance, and to sweat. And so I mean, I love the smaller clubs for that, but you gotta love a large crowd and people just cheering and put their fist up, and to see how far it's come, and just everybody enjoying it. So I like both, really.
Do you become a different person when you get on stage? And are you a different person when you're off stage?
I say there's a button on my back that sometimes you have to push it. Sometimes you're just really exhausted. Some of those flights and traveling, like when you're on tour constantly, sometimes I call it, I get people out because you get kind of drained. You want to meet everybody, you want to talk to everybody. So sometimes by the time you get to the stage, you're a little tired. But let me tell you, after sitting home for 2 years, I'm very happy to be on stage. I think I'm a bit quieter at home. I'm not really extrovert. I only when I'm working, I know I have to be. So some people might look at me and say, "What's she gonna do on stage? She's not even talk." But so yeah, some people might see that I'm very quiet, very private person, and then when I get on stage, I'm another person.
What's the worst thing that's ever happened to you on stage?
Um, I guess little stuff like falling, but it happens. Mic not working. The worst is to have a bad sound system or a sound guy who doesn't know what he's doing. And you still have to smile through it because no one wants to see you cuss out the sound. Sometimes you got to stop the show and say, wait a minute, da, 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 da. But no one wants to see you cuss out the sound guy. You know what I mean? So that's the worst experience when you just have a bad sound system.
What's the nicest thing that a fan has ever made for you?
Made for me. Ooh. I have pictures people have made. I had someone make me, I think is it here? No, it's downstairs. He made a vinyl. He had a 12-inch vinyl and put my picture on it and painted my picture on it. So I think that was really cool. That spoke a lot to me.
And you played literally countless large scale events. We all kind of know what happens on stage.
Mhm.
Can you give us some insight on what happens backstage?
What happens on the road stays on the road. That's our motto. I will not tell the family secrets. But it can get
Do-
it can get wild, especially in the early days when I was young. It was all game. It was
Fair enough. Fair enough.
yeah.
Um, okay, and now you also do a podcast series that you've started called "I Am House."
Mhm.
What made you want to start a podcast series?
I wanted to start it because I was actually looking for podcasts to listen to that played vocal house. Sirius XM was the BPM station. It was only playing EDM, and maybe you'll get some on Utopia. So I wanted to hear some vocal house, and I actually started one years ago, like 2008, 2009, called Clubhouse Radio. But now technology has changed, and I really wanted to do something to focus on vocal house, the kind of house I wanted to hear with bass lines, soulful, and I wanted to make sure especially the singers, especially the female singers, get notified. You only hear the DJ name, so I wanted to give some background to who was on the song, who was singing it, and I plan on to give more history about the culture, where it came from, and things like that. So that was really why I started it, and glad I did because it kind of flourished. I think I wasn't the only one wanting to hear it, so that's why I started that.
And that is also now growing into you're looking at doing I Am House TV. Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, so I started with the record label, I Am House Records. Same reason why I did the podcast, because I wanted to give young people a chance. They all can't get to the conferences. I know a lot more people than they know. So I started the label. Then we started the podcast. And I always, my thing is I wanted somewhere to release my music, somewhere to play it, my own radio station. Now I want somewhere I can it can be shown. So I Am House TV, which I'm very excited about. It's still in the beginning stages. We're developing the website now, but it's going to be all about house and dance culture, house music, dancers, interviews, videos, documentaries. There's lots of documentaries and interviews, and I wanted to, because there's this thing with the EDM taking over house, and a lot of the kids now don't know the history of it, where it came from. I saw Todd Terry saying this girl came up to him and said, "When are you going to play some house?" He was like, "I am playing house." What he's said, "No, Swedish House Mafia." And he was like, "Oh, that's not." So I wanted to, make sure the education was there so they can see where it comes from, be knowledgeable, especially if you're going to be a DJ. I think it's valuable to know, what's happening, where it came from. I'm going to have EDM stuff on it too, but I want to. Right now, I'm building from the past and I'm building up to the present. I'm even going back to, like, I got clips from Soul Train. I got I got the grind. Do you remember the grind
I remember
performance
the
of the
grind.
grind? Even American Bandstand. I got Sylvester on American Bandstand. So it's a
Wow.
lot of little interesting things that I forgot about. I was like, oh wow, Sylvester, Martha Wash, the two on each side, dancing with him. So it's going to be all that 24/7, and I can't wait to launch it. So.
What's so amazing about that is I keep going back to 1992 because that was a real pivotal year for me because I had graduated high school and I came right out of high school and started working on a hip hop public access television show.
Hmm.
And that was the only way we could actually get video out to the masses,
Hmm.
unless we went and bought broadcast airtime. And at
Hmm.
that time, getting a broadcast beta cam or meeting the FCC requirements to put something on broadcast television, it wasn't as easy. It wasn't almost till 8 years later till I think Canon came out with a camera that was broadcast capable, or at least met the FCC guidelines, which then
Hmm.
opened the doors for producers like myself to now take our shows and, instead of being on public access, move them over to broadcast television. Set the way forward clock 5 years later, and this thing called YouTube comes out.
Hmm.
And, we kind of passed on the YouTube because I always tell this story. We passed on YouTube because we saw people just talking to their cameras. And we were a broadcast television show. We weren't people talking to our cameras. So it didn't make sense for us. But later that year, podcasting came out. And
Hmm.
podcasting is still a very underrated distribution platform. A lot of audio podcasts, but you're able to do video podcasts as well. And then
Hmm.
morphing into live streaming, like, and what we're doing right now, live interviews, and pushing
Hmm.
this out in this social media and having this all work. It's so awesome how now one can take an idea and literally get it out there and get it distributed and get it in front of an audience, a target audience, and tell their story.
Hmm.
It wasn't easy back in the 90s to do something like this.
No, even
So
10 years ago, in 2000, 2010,
it
you couldn't
wasn't
do a lot of this.
exactly, it wasn't that easy. But I mean, the only outlet that somebody like you might have had back then was MTV. I think they had the box, if you remember the box.
Yeah.
With,
And New York had one. I can't think. I want to say it was Music Box, but I've been looking for that one because I want to see some of that old stuff.
I think it was like the alternative. If the town didn't want MTV in their town, they got
Mm,
the box.
yeah.
And that was how it kind of worked. But we were getting video submissions with a show that I worked on called the Cool Out Network, and it was a hip hop R&B show. And even that show eventually morphed into started doing Cool Out 2GX in 2000 and started doing
Mm,
a little bit more electronic music events. Giorgio, the producer who I worked with very closely at the time, kind of shifted his audience over to that. And his hip hop audience were like, "What are you doing here? You're supposed to be a hip hop show." But
mm,
even just seeing that trend change and how it's grown, has been awesome from a music standpoint, but also from a distribution standpoint. So congratulations on creating that channel. I look forward to checking that out when it
mm.
comes. In addition to the podcast and the TV show that you're doing, or TV station, or outlet, I'm not sure exactly what you call it, but I know I go to TV and I think broadcast television, but
Mm,
you know, internet distribution. You have I Am House label. And
Hmm.
was your latest release, Love One Another, was So Central? Was that released on that label?
That's released on Quantage Records, which is
Quantize
DJ
Records.
Spin. But
Okay.
me and Spin and I are working very close together. He lives 15 minutes down the street from me.
Okay. That's close
And,
together.
yeah, so we're kind of pooling all our energies, all our, resources. And that song it wasn't Spin, that was So Central, but it was a track that he got, and he was like, "Crystal, you have to be on this. This track is hot." And he just begged me for about a year because I wasn't planning on doing any new disco, but I did it. And the next release that's on my label um, will be on my label with me, my own release. And then I have two more songs with Spin, and the next one will be on him. Then it'll be back on me. And our plan is to come up with an album at some point. So it'll be my first release. The next release I have will be my first release on my label. So
Nice.
I wanted to get, how it all works, who I need to talk to and everything together first. So now I'm ready to release my first release on my label.
And you've been doing this for quite some time. Do you make music with the intention of making a popular record or popular track, or do you just make music solely to satisfy yourself, and success is kind of a nice side effect?
I do it to satisfy myself, and trust me, there's a lot that other people don't like. But I do it for myself, but I also have in mind, the crowd, the people I'm talking to. Um, sometimes I do get a little preachy and I have to pull myself back. I mean, I go through phases where like Love One Another is something I wanted everybody to uplift. I had a song before that called Heavy, talking about all these heavy things that are going on. So it depends on my mood and what I want to do. But I do think about people singing along and things like that. I do want people to engage in the song too. So yeah, that is on my mind.
What's the most important thing record labels should do for their artists, and are they doing a good job with that?
Independent labels?
Independent labels, or I guess
I think that, if
independent
you
or majors, either one.
well, majors have the money, so I think for my label, what I like I like actually working one-on-one with the artist and give them the tips and things that I know. Things that aren't monetary, I think are very important and an encouragement. If I say I don't like this song, I'm going to tell you why and how you can improve it, and just not just throw it back at you and say it sucks. I think encouragement for artists and explanations are very important because it's a very doggy dog world, because people just I don't like it, and you kind of take it personally. So it's that little nuances, stuff like that, I think are very important.
And one of the biggest things, or it's been kind of a buzzword out there, three little letters. And I was on your link tree and I saw that you had something listed. So I wanted to bring this up. NFTs. What
Yes.
is your take on NFTs, and how do you think it's going to benefit the industry as a whole?
I mean, it's so new from what I've been telling. I see it as another stream of income, first of all. Um, I think it's in its infancy. I'm just understanding it myself, but I think it's a new stream of income. It's still forming. I don't know if everybody knows what it is, but if you want me to explain some of it or not.
Sure. I'm always down to learn new stuff because I'm like that much knowledge into this. I know it stands
Yeah,
for non fungible token. Please don't murder
so
me out there in DJ
that's what
land if
it
I said that
is.
wrong.
So
Yeah.
you have to think of it as baseball cards, training baseball cards. So one card, I'll put on a new release, some exclusive photos, some background stuff, 10 things. Five different cards, I have five different things. So you can buy one. There's only a limited amount of them. Say there's only 25, and there's five of them you can buy it, and they run out after you buy them. So you have them. So now you can sell them again. So now they're worth more. So every time you sell them, they're so limited they can make more money, more money, and more money. So it's like trading cards, but you create whatever you want to put in each card, and they're really cool because they're digital. They'll open up and have stuff, and
I saw the site. It was called let me see if
record
I can pull.
shop.
Yes, Record Shop.
Yeah,
I
that's
saw
who
that.
I'm with.
That was a very interesting concept. I hadn't seen that particular concept, and we're looking on how we can enter the NFT market with the DJ sessions, because the assets that we provide, or what we're providing, is we do interviews just like what we're doing now.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be very interesting if we ever try to do it with like an exclusive mix, because we necessarily don't own the rights to the
It's the
song.
wild, wild west. Right now, you
I
can
know
do it all.
it is. I know it
You
is.
better do it now before they start.
But
putting
but I don't want to
the-
get that cease and desist, or hey, look what you're
well,
doing, or
I asked the
something coming
same
back.
question because the basketball players do it. So they'll send a card, say it's a baseball card, and they'll have somebody dunking, which is on CBS, which is on a
Okay.
network. I'm like, how did you get the right from CBS and da-da-da? So it can be done. Now I don't know the ins and outs, but you're taking clips from, basketball games, football games. Somebody made a touchdown. They'll put that on a card and sell it. So don't be
Yeah,
discouraged.
we're trying to figure out how we get our full video interviews and then make them collectible items that the fans can then buy. And then what we'd like to do is we'd like to attach, like we would attach your wallet to our NFT.
Well,
So that way when
talk
it
to
goes out
Joe.
there, and like, yeah. So I mean, we're just researching that, because
Mhm,
making a video file, which can be for us maybe a gigabyte in size, is a lot different than a PNG or a JPEG picture
mhm,
that's maybe a megabyte or less in size.
yeah,
Um, Making sure we can do all that, but we're super excited to see where that goes. Obviously the other side of the coin that people come in and say is that, the resources that it takes to make an NFT, the ecological, blowback that you can get, that I've heard that other side of the fence, that it's, because it's crypto and it's so resource intensive, but then you have to learn how to compare that against, what are you comparing that against?
yeah.
you know,
It's
um,
really,
or as
really
energy
still new.
consumption and all that. But yeah, we're super excited to see where that goes. I'm talking with one of my developers to put that in place and make that go. So here's a question: when you're not entertaining others, what do you do to entertain yourself?
When I'm not, people always say, did you go on vacation? I was like, what is vacation? I'm always on the road. I mean, it's fun. So I'm like, what's better than to do it than to entertain myself. I love mm. I just like sitting with my friends. I don't do anything, I don't go skydiving or anything like that. But I do. I'm a meditator. I'm a person that does a lot of spiritual work. I like to go to conferences like that. Um, now they're all online, so I don't have to go anywhere. But yeah, I just like sitting with my friends and hanging out. Really.
Awesome. If someone wrote a biography about you, what do you think the title should be?
What happens on the road stays on the road.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
Something like that. Well, that happened.
If,
Yeah.
if if Hollywood were to make a movie about your life, who would you pick as the main actress?
Somebody like Holly Berry, somebody, somebody over the top.
And if we were to visit DC, what would be the best thing we should do when we visit your city? And I've been to DC before, and I'll tell you, the pictures and video do not do that town
It
justice
doesn't. It
at
doesn't.
all. The size and the buildings and everything that's there, it was like I thought I was like kind of in Rome. Like it was just like, wow, I didn't know that building was that big. You
Yeah.
know, what's the best thing we should do when we visit DC?
Oh, there's so many things. Because I keep telling them I haven't been out in 2 years. So I keep saying, well, next I'm going to get a place and just do everything I haven't done. You gotta go to anything on the water, Georgetown, the wharf. You gotta the museums, of course. You gotta go to the castle. It's called the castle, and it has a garden in there. Um, they have the art house here as well. Are you familiar with the art house? It's an interactive art museum, which I love. And you got to get crabs. You got to get some blue crabs.
Blue crabs.
Go to Hot and Juicy. Go to, you just got to get some blue crabs. It's a really pretty city, especially in the spring when the cherry blossoms are out. And it's an outdoor city. So lots of parks and lots of stuff like that.
And if you could give one piece of advice to an up and coming artist, what would that be?
One piece of advice. I would say if you really want to get out there, be big in this world, you gotta believe in yourself because they're gonna knock you down. You gotta keep getting up. You gotta believe. You gotta learn how to take constructive criticism. And my biggest thing is you gotta have an attorney. Don't try to do it yourself. The laws change so quickly, especially in this electronic world, and getting paid. I see a lot of people doing records and not putting their names in the title. That's one of my things about dance music when it's just a DJ, and that's the paycheck you're missing. Just little things. The difference between having "and" in your title and "featured" in your title. That's another monetary disaster. It could be. But it also places your Spotify where that song places on your Spotify page. Um, it's hard to go from that brain of, the thinking and to the creative. So it's always good to give it to somebody you trust. Not all of it, because a lot of untrustworthy people out there, but you gotta have somebody in your corner who knows. But don't overthink it, because I see a lot of people also shoot themselves in the foot because they both tried to overthink the business part of it. You're going to make some mistakes, but yeah, you got to learn the little things.
Yeah, definitely. It's been a ride trying to create like an online live streaming brand from the ground up, and we're still very independent. As
Mhm.
we may look like we're huge and big, and we are huge and big, but we're still kind of one of those little guys. But we have a plan, and we're rolling stuff out. We're always coming up with something new and bringing on new technology within the
Mhm.
show, and always looking to work with younger independent artists and share. Even I'm not in the music business per se, although we are starting a label next year,
Mhm.
which is going to be very interesting. But always trying to make sure if it is a producer, a podcaster, somebody looking to get into the business of online distribution in that
Mhm.
medium, I always have a rule that I will share. It is now 97% of my information. It used to be 98% of my information until 2020, when I started finding everyone was trying to use my information and go become my competitor.
Ah,
I'm like,
that happens. That
I'm
happens.
going to take a percentage away out of that equation. But still, I'm always down to help out independent artists or businesses, or point them in a right direction of where they might be able to go to find out the right information, because it's all out there. But you just want to make sure you're right. You don't overthink it, and you want to make sure you're doing everything on paper. I literally just sent out all of my DJs their new resident contracts yesterday. And some of them look at it and they're like, okay, this is like 14 pages long. And I'm like, yes, welcome to show business, you
Uh,
know, and please take it to your attorney if you have one. But
mhm.
it's pretty basic stuff. It's pretty standard stuff, but you got to make sure your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed. Otherwise,
Mhm.
I could produce a show one day and have somebody appear on it. He could get 1 million downloads, and then they say, I want to take that show down. I never gave you the rights to put my name and likeness on the
Mhm.
internet. And I can go, no, you did. It's right here in contract. So, yes.
Yeah.
But
Got to
making sure your
protect
I's are dotted,
yourself.
T's are
Yeah.
crossed. All right. Well, is there anything else you want to let our DJ Sessions fans know before we let you go?
Um, I got more music coming out. Like I said, I'm on tour. I'm mostly on Instagram. I'm not a Facebook person. And I put up my show dates and everything there. Like I said, the label is open and available if anyone has any submissions. I think that's demos at iamhouse.com, or you can DM me on Instagram. Um, and yes, for the label and the podcast, I'm always looking for, good house tracks to put up on the podcast as well. Um, I think that's it. Find me at Crystal Waters at Instagram. I am on Facebook. I am Crystal Waters, and my website is I am Crystal Waters. I think that's it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was a pleasure having you. We're definitely going to stay in contact with you. Oh, I forgot to ask one question. Have you been approached, or have you looked into doing anything with virtual reality?
No, you gonna put something else on my plate? What? What is that? What do you mean?
Well, no, we're opening 2 virtual reality nightclubs and expanding into the metaverse. And it'd be awesome to have you come by sometime and check it out. I'll give you a tour, or we're going to use them for a number of different things. It's just I look at if 1995 was kind of where websites came into play, and then set the way
Mhm.
forward clock 10 years later, where social media came into play, and then set the clock 10 years 15 years later, or almost 20 years later now, I see virtual reality being that next branding opportunity of where you could have an NFT art gallery, you could
Are
have
you gonna do
record.
live performances? You gonna have
We got it
that?
all set up and ready to go. We're just still hanging the artwork on the walls, literally hanging the artwork in the metaverse
Wow.
on the walls. And you can check it
And
out
this
at
is
our website. I'll tell you about it after the show. But yeah, it's going to be really awesome stuff. We see that as another branding opportunity for artists to get their foothold in the metaverse
okay.
early on and start building a following there. But we'll
Wow.
talk about that off show because, yeah, I don't
Okay.
want to put too much more on your plate. But Crystal, thank you so much for coming on the DJ sessions today. We really
Thank you for
appreciate it.
having me. All
You're
right.
welcome.
Bye-bye.
On that note, don't forget to go to our website, thedjsessions.com. Find us on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Meta, in the metaverse at thedjsessions.com. This is Darren coming to you from the virtual studios in Seattle, Washington. That's Crystal Waters coming in from DC for the DJ Sessions, presents the virtual sessions. And remember, on the DJ Sessions, the music never stops.